Quen the Silent War, Alpha Legion infiltration, and the Imperium's hidden traitors. They called me incorruptible. For 16 years I had served as Loyalty Verification Analyst, 3rd grade, in the Departamento Munitorum's Internal Security Division aboard the orbital station Fidelis Eternal, processing 30 to 40 loyalty assessments daily, cross-referencing service records against behavioral markers, flagging deviation patterns that might indicate heretical influence or Xenos contamination. My supervisor, Proctor Helene Vask, told me my faith made my judgment sound. I believed her. I believed in every seal I stamped, every commendation I signed, every clearance I renewed. My name is Soren Medica. I served in Subsector Malvian for 16 standard years. And I want you to understand this. I built the cage before I realized I was locked inside it. When Commissar Theon Corvus submitted his quarterly verification, when I discovered the discrepancy that should not have existed, when I followed that thread into the labyrinth, I thought I was hunting traitors. I was wrong about what treason looked like. Wrong about who the enemy was. Wrong about everything that mattered. The question I could not answer then, that I cannot answer now. If the system itself is the corruption, what does loyalty even mean? My workspace occupied a 2-meter by 3-meter compartment on Deck 17, Section Gamma, positioned between archive storage and the sanctified records chamber. The walls were bare rockcrete painted regulation gray, the kind that absorbed light rather than reflecting it. My desk held a cogitator terminal, 3 verification stamps, a picked slate displaying the Imperial Aquila, and a small devotional candle I lit each morning at the beginning of first shift. The temperature held steady at 16 degrees, maintained by the station's climate systems with the precision that made long-term record preservation possible. Cold enough that I kept my uniform jacket fastened. Cold enough that the air tasted clean, sterile, empty of the organic decay that plagued lower decks. My daily routine began 30 minutes before the shift bell. I would enter my compartment, light the candle, recite the litany of diligent service while the cogitator initialized, then review overnight priority flags before general processing began. The litany was 3 minutes and 40 seconds long, and I spoke every word. I am the Emperor's instrument of assessment. Through my judgment flows his will. I separate wheat from chaff, faithful from corrupted, servant from saboteur. Grant me clarity to see truth. Grant me strength to act upon it. Grant me faith that your justice is absolute. The words organized my thoughts, reminded me why the work mattered. Every analyst I knew recited some version of this prayer. We were the Imperium's immune system, identifying infection before it spread. The verification process itself was methodical, almost meditative. Each case began with a personnel file name, rank, service history, commendations, reprimands, genetic markers, psychometric baseline, known associates. I would compare current behavioral data against historical patterns, looking for anomalies. Did their speech patterns change? Had their sleep cycles shifted? Were they accessing files outside their jurisdiction? Did their loyalty oaths show stress markers in voice analysis? Most cases required 15 to 20 minutes of review before I could confirm continued fitness for duty. Some required deeper investigation. The system was designed to catch deviation before it became damnation. I took pride in my accuracy. In 16 years, I had processed approximately 80,000 verifications with a flagging rate of 0.73%, well below the division average of 1.2%. My false positive rate was 0.09%, the lowest in my section. These numbers meant something. They meant I was good at my work. They meant my judgment was sound. They meant fewer innocent people faced investigation. Fewer loyal servants had their lives disrupted by baseless suspicion. I believed that precision was mercy. I believed I was protecting people by being careful, thorough, exact. The other analysts called me rigid. They would approve verifications with minimal review, trusting the automated systems to flag true threats. Not me. I checked every data point. I reviewed every correlation. I read the actual service records, not just the summary digests. This took longer, produced fewer processed cases per shift. But it felt right. It felt like faith in action. The Emperor demanded diligence. The Imperium deserved thorough guardians. I would not be the weak link that let corruption slip through. My compartment had one small window, a reinforced porthole overlooking the station's docking array. During quiet moments, I would watch servitor, crews loading supply shuttles, watch patrol boats making their rounds, watch the stars beyond. The view reminded me why vigilance mattered. Out there, beyond the Mandeville Point, waited threats that would devour everything we had built. Orc Ys that crashed against Imperial worlds like green tides. Tyrannid hive fleets that stripped planets to bare rock. Chaos cults that wormed into populations and turned faithful citizens into screaming monsters. The Imperium stood against annihilation. And if that required eternal suspicion, if that required constant verification, if that required people like me spending 16 years in cold compartments reviewing files, then that was the price of survival. I ate my meals at my desk. Standard Munitorum rations, protein paste, carbohydrate blocks, vitamin supplement capsules, recaf. The protein paste was gray and tasted faintly of machine oil, but it met nutritional requirements. I consumed the same meal twice daily, at the 8th hour and 16th hour, exactly as the duty schedule mandated. Routine was sacred. Deviation from routine created patterns that analysts in other divisions might flag. I wanted no questions about my own loyalty. I wanted my record to be flawless, transparent, above scrutiny. I suppose that was vanity, in its way. I thought perfection would protect me. My direct supervisor, Proctor Vask, was 63 standard years old, with gray hair worn in the regulation short style and augmetic replacements for her left eye and right hand. She had served in the division for 40 years, processing verifications before I was born. She visited my compartment once per week to review my case logs and discuss any unusual findings. Her augmetic eye would click and refocus as she read my reports, servomotors whirring softly in the silence. She never smiled, but she would nod when she found my work satisfactory, and that nod meant everything. It meant I was doing right. It meant I was serving the Emperor faithfully. It meant I belonged here. The morning I processed Commissar Corvus's quarterly verification began like any other. I lit my candle. I recited the litany. I opened the priority queue and found his file waiting, flagged for standard periodic review. Commissar Theon Corvus, attached to the 47th Malvion Rifles, 17 years of service, exemplary record. 3 commendations for maintaining morale during extended campaigns, 0 disciplinary incidents. His file was so clean it practically glowed. I began the standard checks, service record verification, speech pattern analysis, associate correlation mapping, resource access logs. Everything appeared normal. His voice stress patterns during recent loyalty oaths showed baseline calm. His requisition requests were consistent with his role. His communications logs showed appropriate contacts with command staff and regimental personnel. I was prepared to stamp his verification as confirmed when I noticed something in the appendix files. A citation reference that did not match any document in his service record. Citation 447, Theta, Malv, referencing a disciplinary hearing from 9 years prior. But his record showed 0 disciplinary incidents. 0. Not expunged. Not redacted, just absent. As if it had never existed. I triple-checked. The citation appeared in 3 separate assessment reports, all authored by different evaluators across different years. All three referenced hearing 447, Theta Malv. All three noted the incident had been resolved satisfactorily with no permanent record notation. But there was no hearing file, no incident report, no resolution document, just the citation numbers pointing at empty space in the archives. This happened sometimes. Administrative errors, filing mistakes, data corruption during transfer between systems. The Imperium processed billions of documents daily across millions of worlds. Errors were inevitable, human and otherwise. The proper procedure was to file a correction request, flag the discrepancy for archive review, and continue processing. But something felt wrong. A commissar was not some manufacturum laborer whose records might be carelessly maintained. Commissars were the Imperium's ideological enforcers, the guardians of military morale, the executors of battlefield justice. Their records were maintained with exceptional care. A missing disciplinary hearing should not be possible. I decided to investigate before filing my report. This was not protocol exactly, but neither was it forbidden. Due diligence. Thoroughness. The qualities that made me good at my work. I submitted an archive search request for any documents containing the citation number, expanded the search to include sealed files and restricted access materials. The search would take several hours. I moved on to my next case, trying to ignore the small cold weight that had settled in my chest. The response arrived during my meal period at the 16th hour. The archive search had returned one result, a single reference document in the Departamento Officio Tactica sealed files. I did not have clearance to access Officio Tactici materials. These were strategic planning documents, operational assessments, classified theater data. Why would a commissar's disciplinary hearing be sealed in strategic planning archives? I sat at my desk, protein paste forgotten, staring at the access denial message on my cogitator screen. I could stop here. File my report, note the citation discrepancy. Recommend archive correction, move forward. Commissar Corvas would be verified with a minor annotation. The missing file would be someone else's problem, and I would return to my routine. This was the sensible choice, the safe choice. The choice that 16 years of service taught me to make. Do your assigned work. Do not exceed your authority. Do not ask questions beyond your jurisdiction. Trust the system. Trust the hierarchy. Trust that if something needed investigation, someone with proper clearance would handle it. But I could not stop thinking about those 3 separate reports. 3 different evaluators, all citing a hearing that did not exist. Could not stop thinking about how clean Corvus's record was otherwise. Too clean, perhaps. In 17 years of service, not one reprimand. Not one minor infraction. Not one notation of even trivial misconduct. I had processed thousands of verifications. Everyone had something. A missed formation. A poorly worded report. A moment of insubordination during stress. The perfect record was the suspicious record, because humans were not perfect. And trying to appear perfect was the behavior of someone hiding something worse. I submitted a request to Proctor Vask for temporary elevation of my clearance level to access Officio Tactica files for verification purposes. I included the citation discrepancy in my justification. I expected her to deny the request, to tell me I was overreaching, to remind me to stay within my assigned parameters. Instead, she approved it within the hour, with a note, "Good instincts. Review the file and report findings directly to me before filing official assessment." The clearance elevation arrived at the 20th hour. I opened the sealed file. What I found was not a disciplinary hearing. It was an operational assessment titled Security Protocol Review 47th Malvian Rifles. Post-Deployment Behavioral Analysis. The document was authored by Inquisitorial Liaison Officer Marcus Venn, dated 9 years prior. Classified Vermilion. I should not have been reading this. even with temporary clearance. Inquisitorial materials were supposed to require additional authorization. But the file was open before me, words glowing on my screen, and I read. The report detailed an investigation into unusual casualty patterns during the 47th Malvan's deployment to suppress a rebellion on Tertius Majoris. Multiple officers had died under circumstances officially recorded as combat losses, but the investigating liaison noted inconsistencies. Officers who questioned certain tactical decisions died more frequently than those who obeyed without challenge. Officers who maintained independent communication networks with command survived when their more compliant peers did not. The pattern suggested systematic elimination of independent thinkers, consolidation of influence, creation of a compliant command structure. Commissar Theon Corvus was mentioned by name. The report noted he had assumed expanded authority during the campaign, making tactical recommendations that exceeded his doctrinal role. The regimental commander had increasingly deferred to Corvus's judgment. By campaign's end, Corvus effectively controlled the regiment's strategic decisions while maintaining the formal appearance of his commissariat position. The liaison's conclusion was cautious but damning. Behavioral profile consistent with covert influence operation. Recommend continued observation. Do not engage directly. Subject appears to be implementing long-term positioning rather than immediate subversion. The report ended with a notation. SACE transferred to Ordo Xenos Specialist Team for assessment of potential Genestealer infiltration. Investigation ongoing. All records sealed pending resolution. And then appended in red text. Investigation concluded. Subject cleared of suspicion. No evidence of Xenos influence. Incident closed. Archive classification Vermilion, permanent seal. I read the report 3 times. The investigation had concluded Corvus was not a Genestealer hybrid, not a Xenos infiltrator. He had been cleared, but the report never explained the casualty patterns. Never explained why officers who questioned him died more often. Never explained his expanded authority or influence over the regimental commander. It simply declared him cleared and sealed the records. This was the disciplinary hearing that did not exist. An investigation that found something wrong concluded with official exoneration and disappeared from his service record entirely. I sat in my compartment, staring at my cogitator screen, feeling the cold air against my skin. The devotional candle had burned down to a stub. Outside my porthole, patrol boats traced their endless routes through the void. I could rationalize this. I was skilled at rationalization. The investigation had cleared him. Whatever concerns existed 9 years ago had been resolved. The missing records were simply classification protocols, protecting operational security. Commissar Corvus had served faithfully for 9 more years since that investigation. 3 commendations, 0 incidents. He was exactly what his record showed, an exemplary servant of the Imperium. But the cold weight in my chest had grown heavier. Because I knew how verification worked. I knew how investigations worked. I knew that when someone was truly cleared of suspicion, the exoneration was explicit, detailed, supported by evidence. This report cleared Corvus while simultaneously documenting suspicious patterns that were never explained. It said, "No evidence," while describing what appeared to be evidence. It closed the case while leaving questions unanswered. I thought about the directive in the report. Do not engage directly. Subject appears to be implementing long-term positioning rather than immediate subversion. 9 years had passed since those words were written. Long-term positioning. For what? Toward what goal? And why clear him if suspicion remained? I filed my verification report for Commissar Corvus. I marked it as confirmed, fitness for continued service validated, no current concerns identified. I included a notation about the citation discrepancy and attached the sealed Officio Tactica file for Proctor Vask's review. I completed my shift. I extinguished my candle. I returned to my HAB unit and lay in my bunk, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. I had done my job correctly. I had followed procedure. I had made the appropriate report. Everything was proper and according to regulation. But I could not stop thinking about those dead officers on Tertius Majoris. Could not stop wondering who decided Corvus should be cleared. Could not stop calculating that 9 years was enough time for long-term positioning to become long-term achievement. Could not escape the feeling that I had just verified the loyalty of someone whose loyalty should terrify me. I was wrong about what I had discovered. I was wrong about what the investigation meant. I was wrong about how deep the corruption went. But I was right to be afraid. The next morning I found a message from Proctor Vask. Report to my office. 8th hour. Bring no documents. Her office was on deck 14, section Alpha, twice the size of my compartment with actual furniture beyond a desk. A proper chair for visitors. Bookshelves containing physical copies of imperial regulations, an extravagance that spoke to her seniority. Her augmetic eye tracked me as I entered, servomotors adjusting focus. She gestured to the visitor's chair. I sat. You accessed the Corvus file, she said. Not a question. Yes, Proctor. You approved the clearance elevation. I did. Because your instincts were correct. There was something to find. She leaned back, her augmetic hand resting flat on her desk. What did you conclude? The investigation cleared him of Xenos influence. Whatever concerns existed were resolved 9 years ago, but the casualty patterns were never explained. The report cleared him while documenting suspicious behavior. Correct. She watched me with her human eye, the augmetic one still and unblinking. So what should you do? File the verification as confirmed. Commissar Corvus has served faithfully for 9 years since the investigation. His current record shows no deviation. He is loyal. That is one answer. She opened a drawer, removed a data slate, set it on the desk facing me. There are others. I looked at the slate, but did not touch it. I do not understand, Proctor. Pick it up. I picked up the slate. The screen showed a list of names. 17 names, ranks, service records. All high, ranking Imperial officers across subsector Malvine. I recognized 8 of them from previous verifications I had processed. All had been confirmed. All were serving in critical positions. What is this? A pattern. Proctor Vask's voice was quiet, measured, carefully empty of emotion. Over the past 6 years, you have processed verifications for 8 of these individuals. Your colleague Analyst Tomic processed 4 more. Analyst Gren processed 3. Analyst Harrow processed 2. All 17 verifications were confirmed. All 17 individuals are currently serving in positions of strategic importance. And all 17 have sealed investigation files documenting suspicious behavior that was officially resolved. My hands had gone numb. I do not understand. Yes, you do. She leaned forward, her augmetic eye wearing as it focused. You are an intelligent person. You are seeing what I saw 3 years ago when I started noticing the pattern. Tell me what you think it means. Procedural anomalies, classification errors, different investigations at different times that happen to follow similar documentation patterns. My voice sounded hollow even to myself. That is rationalization. What do you actually think? I looked at the 17 names. Thought about Commissar Corvus and his dead officers. Thought about how many times I had stamped verifications as confirmed without questioning sealed investigation files. Thought about my perfect record, my precision, my pride in catching false positives. I had been so careful, so thorough, so certain of my judgment. I think, I said slowly, that someone is clearing people who should not be cleared. That investigations are finding something and then being told to overlook it. That 17 individuals in critical positions have been investigated for suspicious behavior and then deliberately placed in those positions despite the concerns. Why? I do not know. Quiz. I thought about long-term positioning, about influence operations, about the Alpha Legion tactics documented in restricted materials I had read during my training, about how infiltration worked not through obvious corruption, but through systematic placement of assets across years and decades, about how you would hide an infiltration by investigating it openly and then deliberately clearing the infiltrators as loyal. Because someone in authority is compromised, I said. Someone with the power to seal investigations, issue clearances, place personnel in strategic positions. Someone who has been systematically clearing traitors while making it look like thorough investigation, using the verification system itself to legitimize infiltration. Proctor Vask nodded slowly. That is one possibility. What is another? That it is not someone. That it is the system. That this is not corruption of imperial security protocols. That this is the protocols functioning as designed. Her augmetic hand clenched slightly, servomotors tensing. Explain that. If you want to infiltrate the Imperium, you do not avoid investigation. You invite it. You allow yourself to be investigated, to be documented, to be officially cleared. Because once you are cleared, you become more trustworthy than someone who was never investigated at all. The investigation becomes proof of loyalty. The sealed file becomes a shield, and anyone who questions you later is questioning the judgment of inquisitors, of officio tactici liaisons, of the verification system itself. You become unfalsifiable. Investigation makes you invulnerable. Proctor Vask looked at me for a long moment. Then she opened another drawer and removed a second data slate. This one she kept in her hand. I processed my first suspicious verification 27 years ago, she said. An Astra Militarum colonel with a sealed investigation file. Unusual tactical decisions during a campaign. Dead officers who questioned orders. Sound familiar? I flagged it. Recommended additional screening. My supervisor overruled me, told me the colonel had been cleared by competent authority, told me to trust the system. I obeyed. That colonel is now a Lord General with command authority over 3 regimental battle groups. She set the slate down beside the first one. Over 27 years, I have processed 93 similar cases. Sealed investigations, suspicious patterns, official clearances, all verified as loyal. Some I flagged, some I trusted, all were approved by my supervisors. Many have advanced to positions of increasing authority, and 6 months ago, I was promoted to proctor, given supervisory authority over verification processing, and assigned to review historical case files for quality assurance purposes. She touched the second slate. This contains the complete list. 147 individuals across subsector Malvian, all with sealed investigation files, all officially cleared, all in critical positions. Naval captains, regimental commanders, planetary governors, administratum sector chiefs, Arbites precinct marshals. Even an inquisitor attached to the Ordo Xenos. Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. The pattern is not limited to our division. It is not limited to subsector Malvine. I have found evidence suggesting it extends across multiple subsectors, potentially across the entire segmentum. A systematic, methodical, decades-long program of investigation, clearance, and placement. That is impossible, I said. Something that large could not remain hidden. Someone would notice. Someone would act. People do notice. She looked at me with her human eye, and for the first time I saw exhaustion there, deep and ancient. They notice. They investigate. They report their findings. And then they are told to trust the system. Or they are reassigned. or they are investigated themselves and found to have made procedural errors, or they disappear into positions where they can no longer access the relevant files. The system protects itself. The pattern persists. I thought about my 16 years of service, about my precision, my thoroughness, my pride in my low false positive rate, about how I had built my reputation on trusting official clearances, on not flagging people who had already been investigated by higher authority. I had thought I was protecting the innocent. I had thought my mercy was professional excellence. How many? I asked. How many did I verify who should not have been cleared? She consulted her slate. Off the 147 on my expanded list, you personally processed verification for 31. You confirmed all 31. Your false negative rate, assuming all 31 are genuinely compromised, is 100% within this specific population. 31. I had verified 31 potential infiltrators, had stamped their files as loyal, had allowed them to continue serving, had helped place the Emperor's enemies in positions where they could do maximum damage. My perfect record was not perfection. It was complicity. Who do I report this to? My voice was shaking. Chain of command. Proctor, who is your supervisor? Who has authority to investigate this? Division Director Carmichael, who processed 11 verifications from my list and confirmed all 11. Whose own service record contains a sealed investigation file from 33 years ago. She paused. This is why I am telling you, instead of reporting through proper channels. Because every proper channel leads to someone on the list. Every authority I could report to is either compromised or reports to someone compromised. The verification system is the infiltration vector. We do not have infiltrators in our system. We have a system designed to produce infiltrators. Then we go to the Inquisition. I told you, an Inquisitor is on the list, a different Inquisitor. The Officio Tactici, the Administratum Sector Command, someone must have authority to act. And how do I know they are not compromised? How do I know that reporting this will not simply add my name to the list of people who noticed and then disappeared? She was not angry, just tired, so tired. This is the genius of the system. It is unfalsifiable. Any authority capable of investigating is potentially part of the infiltration. Any investigation can be sealed. Any clearance can be issued. Any concerns can be documented and then ignored. The system operates in plain sight while remaining invisible, because questioning it requires questioning everything, and questioning everything makes you look paranoid, delusional, heretical. I sat in silence, trying to think, trying to find the solution, the proper procedure, the action that would fix this. But every thought led back to the same conclusion. I did not know who to trust. Could not trust anyone with access to the verification system. Could not trust anyone who had authority to investigate. Could not even trust Proctor Vask with absolute certainty, because she too could be part of the infiltration, testing me, documenting my reactions for someone else's review. Why are you telling me this? I finally asked. Because you found Corvus. Because you had good instincts. Because your false positive rate is the lowest in the division, which means when you do flag someone, it matters. She leaned back in her chair. And because I am 63 years old, and I will not live forever, and someone needs to know. Someone needs to carry the knowledge forward. Someone needs to keep looking. To what end? If we cannot report it, cannot act on it, cannot stop it, what is the point of knowing? The point, she said quietly, is that when it matters, when the moment comes, someone will be positioned to act. Maybe not today, maybe not for decades, but eventually there will be an opportunity, a crisis, a moment when the infiltration reveals itself. And if someone knows, if someone has been watching and documenting and preparing, Then maybe, possibly, we can strike back. Maybe we can salvage something. Maybe knowledge itself is resistance. She was wrong. I know that now. Knowledge without power is not resistance. It is just suffering with awareness. But I did not understand that yet. I still thought documentation mattered. Still thought evidence could save us. Still believed in procedure and hierarchy and the possibility of justice. "What do you want me to do?" I asked. "Your job. Process verifications. Continue your work. But when you find sealed investigation files, when you see the pattern, document it. Build your own list. Watch for connections. And if the opportunity comes to act, if there is ever a moment when exposing this could make a difference, be ready." I left her office carrying 2 data, slates I should not have possessed, filled with information I should never have learned, burdened with knowledge I could not unknow. I returned to my compartment. I lit my candle. I tried to recite the litany of diligent service, but the words felt hollow. I am the Emperor's instrument of assessment. But what if assessment was the weapon? Through my judgment flows his will. But what if will was corrupted at the source? I separate wheat from chaff, faithful from corrupted. But what if the system was designed to preserve the corrupted and grind down the faithful? I opened my cogitator. I began to work, but everything had changed. Every file I processed, I wondered. Every clearance I saw, I questioned. Every sealed investigation felt like conspiracy. My precision, my thoroughness, my careful judgment, all of it was compromised by the certainty that the system I served was itself the threat. That was when my transformation truly began. Not with Corvus, not with the 147 names, but with the realization that I could not trust my own work, could not trust my own judgment, could not trust the institution I had served for 16 years. I had thought I was hunting traitors. I was learning that I was the traitor. That loyalty itself was treachery. That faith was the mechanism of corruption. I did not yet understand how deep it went. I did not yet comprehend the full scope. But I knew enough to be afraid, enough to question, enough to start my own investigation, my own list, my own documentation of the pattern. I did not know that the pattern had already noticed me. 3 weeks after my meeting with Proctor Vask, I processed a verification request for Naval Captain Severin Holt, commanding officer of the frigate Undaunted Purpose. His file was clean, exemplary service, multiple commendations, no disciplinary incidents. But attached to his file was a citation reference 6112, Kappa, Malv, referencing a tactical review from 7 years prior. I searched the archives. The review was sealed in Officio Tactica files. I requested clearance elevation. Proctor Vask approved it. I opened the file. The review detailed an incident during pirate suppression operations. Captain Holt had engaged a suspected pirate vessel in what should have been a routine interdiction. The pirate ship escaped. 3 months later, that same ship was identified participating in a Chios Warband's raiding fleet. The tactical review questioned why Holt had not pressed his attack, why he allowed the vessel to escape when he possessed overwhelming firepower. Holt's explanation was documented. Sensor malfunction. Target identification uncertainty, concern about collateral damage to civilian shipping in the area. All reasonable justifications, all supported by his bridge logs. But the investigating officer noted something. The pirate vessel's escape trajectory took it directly through an area of Space Captain. Holt's sensors had reported as clear. Either his sensors were catastrophically malfunctioning, or he had deliberately reported false data to justify breaking off pursuit. The investigation concluded insufficient evidence to prove deliberate action. Holt was cleared with a notation about equipment reliability. He was promoted to full captain 2 years later. I added his name to my private list. Then, I noticed something in the investigation report that made my blood cold. The investigating officer's name: Inquisitorial Liaison Officer Marcus Venn, the same officer who investigated Commissar Corvus 9 years ago, the same officer who wrote, "Do not engage directly," in his assessment, the same officer who cleared suspicious patterns and sealed the files. I searched the archives for every investigation authored by Venn. I found 37 separate reports across 16 years. All followed the same pattern. They document suspicious behavior, note concerning patterns, conclude insufficient evidence, issue clearance, seal the file. 37 individuals investigated, 37 cleared, 37 sealed files. I cross-referenced against Proctor Vask's list. 29 of Venn's 37 cases appeared on her expanded list. He was not just clearing infiltrators. He was identifying them, documenting them for someone else's review, and then issuing official clearances that made them untouchable. I brought this to Proctor Vask during our weekly meeting. She looked at my evidence without surprise. "Venn was on my list already," she said. "Position 18. Inquisitorial Liaison Officer, Officio Tactici Integration Team. Clearance level Vermilion. He disappeared 6 months ago. Reassigned to undisclosed location. All records of his current posting sealed." Then we have proof. We can demonstrate systematic misconduct. We can show that investigations are being manipulated. We can show that one liaison officer processed multiple investigations that resulted in clearances. That is not proof of conspiracy. That is evidence of an overworked officer handling his assigned caseload. Without being able to prove the individuals he cleared are actually compromised, without being able to show coordination between them, without being able to identify who Venn reports to or who benefits from his clearances, all we have are questions, and questions are not evidence. I stared at her. Then what are we doing? If documentation is not enough, if patterns are not proof, if we can never gather sufficient evidence to act, what is the point of any of this? We are watching. We are remembering. We are preparing for the moment when the mask slips, when they are forced to act openly, when their infiltration becomes visible. She paused. If that moment comes. And if it does not? She looked at me with exhausted eyes. Then we die without ever knowing whether we were correct or paranoid. That is the cost of this knowledge. I processed 37 more verifications over the following month. 19 showed the same pattern: sealed investigation, official clearance, suspicious behavioral markers that were documented and dismissed. I added them to my list. I cross-referenced against Vask's list. 12 matches. We were not finding new conspirators. We were confirming the same network from different angles. Every file I reviewed, I saw the pattern. Every clearance I processed, I questioned. My work slowed. My throughput dropped from 40 cases per shift to 25. Then 20. Then 18. I was taking too long, reading too carefully, cross-referencing too thoroughly. My false positive rate remained low, but my efficiency was declining. Other analysts began to surpass my case numbers. During a routine performance review, my new supervisor, Proctor Helmond, noted my declining productivity. He asked if I was experiencing difficulties, if I needed additional training, if there were personal issues affecting my work. I assured him everything was fine. He looked at me with flat, unreadable eyes and said, "Diligence is valuable, Analyst Medici, but excessive diligence can indicate lack of faith in institutional judgment. Trust the system. Trust your colleagues. Trust that verified clearances are valid. Doubt is corrosive." He was on my list. Position 73. Cleared by Liaison Officer Venn 4 years ago. Promoted to Proctor rank 2 years ago. Now supervising the same division responsible for verifying his own loyalty. I returned to my compartment. I lit my candle. I tried to pray. The litany of diligent service felt obscene in my mouth. I am the Emperor's instrument. But what Emperor? The one we were taught to serve, or the one actually commanding the institutions we obeyed? Through my judgment flows his will. But what will flow through a system designed to clear traitors? I could not finish the prayer. That night I accessed my private files. The list I had been building. 190, 3 names now. Cross-referenced against duty stations, deployment histories, communication networks. I began mapping connections. Who served under whom? Who recommended whom for promotion? Who investigated whom and issued clearances? The network was vast, interconnected, carefully constructed. It looked like conspiracy. It also looked like normal institutional hierarchy. How could I tell the difference? How could anyone? I found patterns in the patterns. Individuals cleared by Liaison Officer Venn were disproportionately likely to serve under or alongside other individuals on the list. Regimental commanders whose officers included multiple cleared personnel. Naval task forces where 3 of 7 captains showed the pattern. Administratum sector offices where nearly half the senior staff had sealed investigation files. Clusters of cleared individuals operating in proximity, supporting each other's advancement, recommending each other for critical positions. But this too could be rationalized. People who served together developed professional relationships. Commanders recommended subordinates they knew and trusted. Networks formed naturally in any bureaucracy. The presence of connections did not prove coordination. It could simply show that people investigated and cleared by the same liaison officer tended to work in the same operational areas. Correlation was not causation. Pattern was not proof. I was beginning to understand the true horror. Not that I could not prove the conspiracy, but that I could never prove it was not just my paranoia. The evidence was perfectly ambiguous. Every suspicious pattern had innocent explanation. Every connection had procedural justification. Every cleared individual could genuinely be loyal. The system was designed to be unfalsifiable. I could be documenting genuine infiltration. I could be manufacturing conspiracy from coincidence. I had no way to know which. This was the intellectual horror Proctor Vask had warned me about. Not the certainty of corruption, but the impossibility of certainty at all. I could not trust the system. I could not trust my evidence. I could not even trust my own judgment. All I could do was watch, document, and wait for revelation that might never come. Revelation came 43 days later, but not the way I expected. I was processing a routine verification for Supply Corps, Lieutenant Jess Nara, Logistics Coordinator for the Orbital Station's Manufacturum District. Standard review, clean record, no issues. I stamped it confirmed and moved to close the file when I noticed something in her resource access logs. She had pulled technical specifications for the station's plasma reactor containment systems. Odd, but not impossible. Logistics coordinators sometimes needed engineering data for supply chain planning. But the access was logged at 3rd hour, 17 minutes, which was outside her normal shift time. And the specifications she accessed were not supply relevant. They were maintenance schedules, safety protocol override procedures, emergency shutdown sequences. I checked her previous access logs. Over the past 6 months, she had accessed engineering data for the station's primary reactor, backup power systems, life support, environmental controls, void shield generators, and docking bay security systems. All accessed outside her shift time. All technically within her authorization level, but completely outside her professional responsibilities. I pulled her background investigation file. Standard Imperial Skolum education, Munitorum logistics training, 12 years of service, consistently average performance. No disciplinary issues, no flags, no sealed investigations. She was not on any list, She was just an ordinary logistics officer who happened to be accessing technical data for the station's critical systems during off hours. I flagged it, not as heresy or infiltration, just as unusual activity warranting additional review. I filed my report through proper channels. 2 hours later, Proctor Hellman summoned me to his office. "Explain this flag," he said, holding my report. Lieutenant Nara accessed engineering data outside her professional responsibilities. The pattern suggests reconnaissance of critical systems. I recommend investigation. On what basis? Access logs. Timing. The specific nature of the data accessed. Lieutenant Nara has full authorization to access those files. Her clearance level permits engineering data review. Her shift timing is variable due to supply chain demands. Nothing in her behavior violates any regulation. He set down my report. This is excessive diligence, Analyst Medica. This is seeing conspiracy, where there is only routine work. I am declining your flag and confirming Lieutenant Nara's verification as valid. But the pattern? There is no pattern. There is an analyst who has lost faith in institutional judgment, who questions every clearance, who sees heresy in administrative data access. He leaned forward. I am documenting this incident. Continued pattern of excessive flagging will result in fitness review. Am I understood?
Yes, Proctor. Dismissed.
I returned to my compartment with hands shaking. Hellman was protecting Nara. Or Hellman believed I was becoming paranoid. Or Hellman was correct that I was seeing conspiracy everywhere. Or Nara was genuinely innocent, and I was manufacturing threat from ordinary logistics work. I could not distinguish between these possibilities. Could not trust my judgment. Could not trust the system. Could not even trust my own perceptions. I accessed Nara's file again, despite knowing it was flagged for unusual review. I needed to understand. Needed to find something definitive. Needed certainty. I found it. Hidden in supplementary personnel files. An annotation from her initial posting to Fidelis Eternal 12 years ago. Her transfer had been personally recommended by Naval Captain Severin Holt. Captain Holt, position 40, 7 on my list. Captain Holt, who let the Chaos-aligned pirate ship escape 7 years ago. Captain Holt, who was cleared by Liaison Officer Venn. I checked the other personnel on the station with sealed investigations. Commissar Corvus was stationed here, attached to the 23rd Malvion Defense Battalion garrisoned on Deck 9. 3 members of the administratum staff were on my list, 2 docking authority officers, 1 Arbitz enforcer, all cleared by Venn or investigators who had similar patterns, all serving on the same orbital station, all positioned to access or control critical infrastructure, and Lieutenant Nara, who had no sealed investigation, who appeared on no list, who was just an ordinary officer, except that she was connected to Captain Holt and was systematically accessing technical data for every critical system on the station. The network was not separate from the station. The station was part of the network. I had been living inside the infiltration for 16 years, processing verifications for infiltrators, trusting the system that was designed to hide them, serving an institution that was itself the weapon. I thought about Proctor Vask's words. Watch for the moment when the mask slips. I thought I had found it. I thought this was revelation, the evidence that proved everything. I drafted a detailed report, connected every data point, showed the network operating on Fidelis Eternal. I prepared to send it to Officio Tactici Oversight, to the Inquisition, to any authority that might investigate. Then I realized I had nowhere to send it. Proctor Hellman would intercept division communications. The station's administratum leadership included 3 people on my list. The Arbitz contact was on my list. Every authority I could access was potentially compromised. And if I somehow got the message off, station, who would believe me? I was a third-grade analyst with declining performance metrics, claiming systemic conspiracy based on connection patterns and data access logs. I looked exactly like someone experiencing paranoid delusion. The system had made me unfalsifiable from within, while making my evidence unfalsifiable from without. I sat at my desk, holding my report, understanding that I had no path forward. Could not act within the system. Could not act outside the system. Could not even prove the system needed acting against. All I could do was continue working, continue documenting, continue watching while the infiltration operated in plain sight all around me. That was when I made my first mistake. I decided to investigate Lieutenant Nara directly. Not through official channels, not through verification protocols, but personally. I would observe her, track her movements, confirm whether her data access was preparation for sabotage or innocent logistics work. I would gather proof definitive enough that no authority could dismiss it. I would break procedure, exceed my authority, act on my own judgment because the system had failed. I was so certain I was right, so certain I had found real conspiracy, so certain that direct action was justified. I was wrong about all of it. I began following Lieutenant Nara during off-shift hours. This was not difficult. The station was large but structured. There were only so many routes between compartments. I logged her movements. Deck 7 Manufacturum District, Deck 12 Maintenance Tunnels, Deck 5 Engineering Substations. She was accessing systems directly now, not just pulling files. Using maintenance override codes, bypassing security protocols. Everything I saw confirmed sabotage preparation. Everything I documented proved conspiracy. On the 17th day of surveillance, I followed her into a maintenance tunnel on Deck 9. Watched her access a control junction for the station's tertiary power distribution grid. Watched her connect a portable data slate to the system. Watched her upload something I could not identify from my position. This was it. This was proof. I activated my Vox comm to call station security. Before I could speak, someone grabbed me from behind. Hand over my mouth, arm around my throat, voice in my ear. Do not call security. Do not resist. Just listen. I recognized the voice. Commissar Theon Corvus. He pulled me deeper into the maintenance tunnel, away from Nara's position, into a service alcove where we would not be visible. Released me. I turned to face him. He looked exactly like his service picts, weathered face, regulation commissar coat, bolt pistol on his hip. He did not draw the weapon. Just watched me with exhausted eyes. You are Analyst Soren Medica, he said. 3rd grade, Internal Security Division. You verified my loyalty 61 days ago. You found my sealed investigation file. You have been building a list of suspected infiltrators for 2 months. You flagged Lieutenant Nara for unusual data access. You have been following her for 17 days. Did I miss anything? I could not speak, could not think. He knew everything. They knew everything. I had been watched while I watched them. I am not going to kill you, Corvus said quietly. I am going to offer you a choice. You can listen to what I have to say, or you can call security right now. If you call security, they will find Lieutenant Nara performing authorized maintenance on systems within her jurisdiction. They will find you in a restricted area where you have no authorization. They will investigate why you were following her. They will discover your list, your files, your surveillance logs. Proctor Helmond will testify that you have shown signs of paranoid ideation and declining performance. You will be subjected to loyalty screening. You will fail because you have lost faith in imperial institutions. You will be mind wiped or executed. That is option 1. What is option 2? Listen to what I have to say. Learn what you have actually discovered. Understand why the pattern exists. Then choose whether you want to help us or die having learned the truth. He gestured to the alcove. Set. This will take time. I sat. He remained standing, watching the tunnel entrance, hand near his weapon. When he spoke, his voice was measured, careful, empty of emotion. You are correct that there is an infiltration. You are correct that the verification system is compromised. You are correct that cleared individuals hold critical positions throughout subsector command structures. You are wrong about who we are, why we are here, and what we are doing. You are Alpha Legion, I said. The words felt like confession. He smiled without humor. That is what you were supposed to think. That is what anyone investigating the pattern is supposed to conclude. Alpha Legion tactics, infiltration methodology, long-term positioning, all documented in Imperial intelligence assessments. The perfect enemy. The unfalsifiable threat. Of course you think we are Alpha Legion. You are not. I am Commissar Theon Corvus, 17 years of service, loyal to the Emperor and the Imperium. So is Lieutenant Nara. So is Captain Holt. So are 87% of the people on your list. He paused. The other 13% are actual infiltrators. Chaos cultists. Xenos sympathizers, traitors who need to be identified and eliminated. That is what we do. We are the real verification system. We are the hunters operating within the corrupted institution. I stared at him. That is impossible. Why? Because loyal servants could not operate with sealed files and official clearances. Because the verification system must be pure. He shook his head. The verification system is not corrupted by infiltration. It is corrupted by bureaucracy, by incompetence, by institutional paranoia that destroys effective personnel for minor deviations. The official system is designed to maintain order through fear, to purge anyone who shows independent thought, to prefer compliant mediocrity over competent initiative. It is failing. It has been failing for centuries. So, someone decided to build a second system, hidden inside the first. A network of competent, loyal personnel who appear suspicious precisely because they are effective. Liaison Officer Vin started the program 39 years ago, after watching 3 brilliant regimental commanders executed for heresy because they achieved victories using unconventional tactics. He realized the Imperium was destroying its best servants to maintain ideological purity. So he began identifying the personnel worth saving, people who thought independently. Who questioned orders when orders were stupid? Who valued victory over procedure? He investigated them, documented their deviations, and then cleared them with sealed files. Protected them by making them look like infiltrators. Positioned them where they could do the most good. That is treason. That is survival. Corvus looked at me directly. The Imperium's enemies do not care about our doctrine. They care about our effectiveness. An army of compliant, ideologically pure incompetence will lose to orcs who think better than they fight. A navy commanded by officers too afraid to take initiative will lose to chaos fleets commanded by madmen with tactical genius. Ven understood this. He built a network of personnel who could think, who could adapt, who could win. And he hid them behind sealed investigation files so the bureaucracy would not destroy them for the crime of competence. Then why the suspicious patterns? Why the dead officers? Why does it look like systematic elimination? Because it is. We eliminate the people who cannot adapt, who will follow doctrine off a cliff, who are dangerous precisely because they are loyal to procedures that do not work. He paused. We eliminate them with slightly more efficiency than random combat losses and slightly less visibility. The officers who died under my command were not murdered. They died in combat because they made predictable tactical decisions that got them killed. I simply did not try very hard to save them. Natural selection accelerated slightly. You kill loyal Imperial servants. I allow incompetent imperial servants to die when their incompetence would get competent personnel killed. There is a difference. I have also saved hundreds of lives by making decisions that doctrine prohibited. Saved entire regiments by ignoring orders that would have destroyed them. The emperor does not need servants who follow him to damnation. He needs servants who win. I felt sick. This was worse than conspiracy. This was rationalization so complete it had become philosophy. You are describing corruption of imperial command structure. I am describing evolution, adaptation. The Imperium is 10,000 years old and fighting wars across the entire galaxy. The institutional structures that worked in the Great Crusade do not work now. We need personnel who can think beyond doctrine, who can respond to threats that do not fit established patterns, who can achieve victory even when victory requires breaking rules. He looked at Lieutenant Nara, still working at the control junction. What she is doing right now is installing monitoring software on power distribution systems, so we can detect sabotage attempts before they succeed. This is not authorized. There is no regulation permitting proactive monitoring. So we do it without authorization and hide it behind maintenance work, and accept that if discovered we will be executed for the crime of preventing disasters. Why are you telling me this? Because you found us. Because you have the instincts to identify patterns that matter. Because we need analysts who can distinguish between real threats and phantom conspiracies. He gestured toward the tunnel exit. There are actual infiltrators on this station. Chaos cultists in the lower decks. A suspected Genestealer hybrid in the administratum ranks. Orc sympathizers among the servitor overseers. The official verification system will never find them because it is too busy investigating people who accessed files outside their shift time or questioned orders once. We find them. We identify them. We eliminate them quietly. And we need people like you to help us see what we might miss. So I join your conspiracy, or you kill me. You join our resistance, or we let the system destroy you for discovering us. The choice is yours. He looked at me with those exhausted eyes. But understand what you are choosing. If you refuse, you will be investigated for paranoid ideation and excessive suspicion. Your list will be evidence of mental instability. You will be mined, wiped or executed, and everything you discovered will be sealed as the delusions of a broken analyst. If you join us, you will continue your work, but you will report real threats to us instead of through official channels. You will help identify actual infiltrators while protecting the network. You will become complicit in the same conspiracy you tried to expose. And if I still believe you are the real infiltrators, if I think this is just another layer of deception, then you are not wrong to be suspicious. Because this could all be lies. I could be Alpha Legion. Ven's network could be genuine chaos infiltration. Everything I have told you could be manipulation to recruit you into actual treason. He shrugged. You will never know for certain. That is the cost of knowledge in a corrupted system. You can believe the official institutions that are demonstrably failing. You can believe me and my rationalized conspiracy, or you can reject both and die with your certainty intact. Those are your only options. I sat in that maintenance alcove, watching Lieutenant Nara finish her work, listening to Commissar Corvus explain how treason was actually loyalty, thinking about 16 years of service to a system that might have been protecting corruption or might have been destroying competence. I thought about my perfect record, my precision, my pride in low false positives. I thought about Proctor Vask and her list, her exhaustion, her decades of watching the pattern persist. I thought about the Emperor's judgment, assuming he still watched from his golden throne, assuming he cared about the moral gymnastics of servants operating in systems too broken to serve him properly. I thought about the question I had asked in my opening testimony, the question that started this entire journey. If the system itself is the corruption, what does loyalty even mean? Corvus had given me an answer. Not a good answer, not a satisfying answer, but an answer that at least acknowledged the question was real. If I agree, I said slowly, what exactly would you have me do? Your job. Process verifications exactly as you have been doing. But when you find genuine threats, people who show markers of actual chaos, corruption, or xenos, infiltration, or real heretical belief, you flag them to me instead of through official channels. When you find people on Ven's network, people with sealed files who appear suspicious, but are actually loyal, you verify them as cleared and document their patterns so we know what baseline deviation looks like. You become our analyst inside the verification system. Eyes that see what the system cannot. And if I find evidence that you are lying, that Ven's network is genuine infiltration, then you expose us. Send your list to every authority you can reach. Accept that you will probably be killed before anyone believes you, but at least you will have tried. He looked at me directly. I am not asking you to stop being suspicious. I am asking you to direct your suspicion at actual threats instead of effective personnel. The Imperium has plenty of enemies. We do not need to make enemies of our own best servants. This was the moment. The choice Proctor Vask warned me about. Accept complicity or face erasure. Except the choice was more complicated than that, because I did not know which side represented complicity and which represented resistance. Did not know if Corvus was offering salvation or damnation. Did not know if my certainty about infiltration was insight or paranoia. I thought about the alternative. Return to my routine, continue flagging suspicious patterns, watch as every report was dismissed and every analyst who questioned too much was removed. Watch the system protect either infiltrators or competent personnel while destroying anyone who tried to distinguish between them. Watch my own performance decline, my flags ignored, my fitness questioned, until eventually I too was investigated and found wanting. The system would destroy me for the crime of caring too much, and nothing would change. I will do it, I said. But I will be watching. If I find proof that Ven's network is actual infiltration, I will expose you. Good, Corvus said. That is exactly the attitude we need. Suspicious, careful, unwilling to trust completely. That is what keeps us honest. He pulled a small data chip from his coat pocket, handed it to me. Communication protocols, how to flag genuine threats, how to contact network members, encrypted, hidden in routine administrative traffic. Study it, memorize it, destroy the chip. I took the chip. It felt impossibly light, impossibly small to contain such weight. One more thing, Corvus said. Proctor Vask, she was building the same list you were. She reached the same conclusions. We approached her 3 years ago with the same choice we are offering you. What did she choose? She chose to watch, to document, to prepare for the moment when she could act. She did not join us. She did not trust us. But she did not expose us either, because she was not certain whether we were the threat or the solution. He paused. Her reassignment to archival duties was not punishment. It was protection. We moved her before her superiors could destroy her for asking questions. She has access to deeper historical records now. She is still watching, still building her list, still uncertain whether we are heroes or villains. That uncertainty keeps us both honest. Can I speak with her? Not directly, not safely, but she knows you were approached. She knows you found the same patterns. Whatever you decide, she will respect it. And if you do find proof we are traitors, she will help you expose us. He turned toward the tunnel exit. Go home, Analyst Medikey. Think about what I have told you. Review the communication protocols, and tomorrow return to your routine. Process your verifications. Trust nothing. Question everything. That is how you serve the Emperor, whether you serve him with us or against us. He left. Lieutenant Nara finished her work, packed her equipment, disappeared into the maintenance tunnels without ever acknowledging my presence. I remained in the alcove, holding a data chip that might connect me to a resistance network or might tie me to genuine infiltration. I had no way to know which. I returned to my compartment. I did not light my candle. I sat at my desk and loaded the data chip into my personal cogitator. Isolated from the station network, the protocols were exactly as Corvus described: communication methods, contact procedures, threat assessment criteria. Everything looked professional, carefully designed, legitimate. It also looked exactly like what an infiltration network would create to recruit useful analysts. I thought about everything I had learned, thought about sealed investigation files and official clearances, thought about Liaison Officer Ven building a network across decades, thought about Commissar Corvus killing incompetent officers and calling it natural selection, thought about Lieutenant Nara installing unauthorized monitoring systems and calling it sabotage prevention, thought about a conspiracy that claimed to be resistance, that used infiltration methods to fight infiltration, that protected the system by operating outside the system. It could all be true. Ven's network could genuinely be loyal personnel operating in the gray spaces where doctrine failed. Or it could all be lies. The perfect manipulation convinced me the conspiracy was actually protection. Recruit me to help identify real threats so they could eliminate resistance to actual infiltration. Make me complicit while believing I was serving the Emperor. I would never know for certain. That was the genius of the system. The conspiracy was unfalsifiable whether it was real resistance or real infiltration. The evidence was perfectly ambiguous. The choice was impossible. But I had to choose anyway. I spent that night reviewing my list, my 16 years of documentation, every pattern I had identified. I looked for evidence either way, tried to find proof that Ven's network was genuine loyalty or genuine treason. The evidence remained ambiguous. Some cleared personnel had advanced to positions where they made difficult decisions that saved lives. Some had advanced to positions where they made difficult decisions that looked suspicious. I could not distinguish between necessary pragmatism and systematic corruption. So I chose based on outcome. The official verification system was demonstrably failing. It destroyed competent personnel for minor deviations while failing to identify actual threats. If Ven's network was genuine resistance, then helping them served the Imperium better than serving the broken system. If Ven's network was genuine infiltration, then I was already complicit by verifying them as cleared for 16 years. Either way, my choice was between active complicity and passive complicity. At least active complicity gave me position to expose them if I found proof. I destroyed the data chip after memorizing the protocols. I returned to my routine. I processed verifications. But now I reported through 2 channels, official flags for minor deviations, that the system would destroy regardless, and encrypted communications to Ven's network for patterns that suggested genuine chaos corruption or Xenos infiltration. I became exactly what Corvus wanted, an analyst serving 2 masters, never certain which master was legitimate. Over the following months, I identified 7 genuine threats, 3 administratum clerks showing behavioral markers consistent with chaos cult indoctrination, 2 naval ratings with suspicious communications to known pirate networks, 1 militarum logistics officer who had systematically redirected supplies in patterns that matched Genestealer hybrid resource gathering. One Arbit's enforcer whose investigation records showed he was consistently failing to pursue specific types of heretical activity. I flagged them through Ven's network. They were quietly reassigned, investigated by different authorities, removed from their positions. Some were executed. Some were mind-wiped. Some simply disappeared. The official system never noticed them. Official verification had cleared all 7 as loyal. I also identified 31 personnel who appeared on my list, but showed no evidence of actual corruption beyond appearing too effective at their duties. I verified them as cleared through official channels, while documenting their patterns for Ven's network. Helped them stay hidden. Protected them from the system. Became complicit in maintaining the conspiracy that might have been protection or might have been infiltration. I never achieved certainty. Never found definitive proof either way. Just continued serving both systems, watching for the moment when one would reveal itself as genuinely righteous or genuinely damned. That moment never came. Or perhaps it came constantly, in every difficult choice, every ambiguous pattern. Every decision to protect someone who might have been loyal or might have been traitor. The revelation was not a single moment. It was the grinding accumulation of complicity, the slow erosion of certainty. The transformation from analyst who trusted the system to analyst who trusted nothing. Proctor Vask died in her sleep 4 months after my recruitment. Natural causes, the medical assessment said. She was 63, had served 40 years, had earned her rest. Her personal files were sealed. Her list was archived. The official record showed a loyal servant who spent her final years maintaining historical documents in quiet obscurity. I knew better. I knew she died watching the pattern, questioning whether she was documenting resistance or conspiracy, never certain whether her protection of Ven's network was mercy or treason. I am writing this testimony 7 months after that meeting in the maintenance tunnel. I am still 3rd-grade analyst in the Internal Security Division. I still process verifications 30 to 40 cases per shift. I still light my candle and try to pray, though the litany tastes like ash in my mouth. I am still building my list, still documenting patterns, still watching for proof that Ven's network is salvation or damnation. But I am also being watched. Proctor Helmond has flagged my files for systematic review. My communication patterns are being analyzed. My loyalty verification is scheduled for next month. I do not know if this is because the official system suspects me of conspiracy, or because Ven's network suspects me of maintaining too much independence, or because I am genuinely showing signs of instability that warrant investigation. I will probably never know which. That is the cost of knowledge in corrupted systems. If I am mind-wiped, these files will be destroyed. If I am executed, these files will be sealed. If I disappear like Liaison Officer Ven, these files will be archived and forgotten. The official record will show another analyst who lost faith, questioned too much, became liability rather than asset. The pattern will persist. The conspiracy will continue. Whether it is loyal resistance, operating in gray spaces, or infiltration, so perfect, it has convinced its own members they serve the Emperor. I have made copies of this testimony. Hidden them in archive systems I accessed through verification protocols. Encoded them in maintenance logs and supply manifests and personnel transfer documents. Scattered them across multiple data repositories where they might survive my erasure. If you are reading this, you have found one of those copies. You are probably an analyst like I was. You are probably investigating patterns you do not understand. You are probably trying to distinguish between corruption and competence, between infiltration and resistance, between system failure and system adaptation. I cannot give you certainty. I can only give you testimony. I verified the loyalty of 193 personnel who showed patterns consistent with systematic infiltration. Some are genuine infiltrators serving Chaos or Xenos. Some are loyal personnel operating outside doctrine to achieve what doctrine cannot. I never knew which was which. I served two systems simultaneously, never certain which system served the Emperor. I became complicit in either protecting corruption or maintaining resistance. I chose active uncertainty over passive faith, and I do not know if that choice was wisdom or cowardice. The question I asked at the beginning of this testimony: if the system itself is the corruption, what does loyalty even mean? I can answer now. Loyalty in a corrupted system means choosing which corruption to serve. It means becoming complicit in something you cannot fully understand. It means acting despite uncertainty because inaction is also complicity. It means living with the weight of decisions that might save the Imperium or might damn it, and never knowing which, until history renders judgment you will not survive to witness. If you find proof that Ven's network is genuine infiltration, expose them. Send your evidence to every authority you can reach. Accept that you will probably die before anyone believes you. At least you will have tried. If you find proof that Ven's network is genuine resistance, protect them. Help them identify real threats. Become complicit in necessary treason. Accept that you may be wrong, that you may be serving infiltration while believing you serve the Emperor, or do neither. Return to your routine. Trust the system. Trust that verification protocols are valid and sealed investigations are genuine and official clearances mean loyalty. Accept that your precision might be complicity and your doubt might be faith. That choice too is valid. That choice too serves someone, though you will never know whom. I chose active uncertainty. I chose to serve Ven's network while watching for proof of their treason. I chose to help identify real threats while documenting the network that might be threat itself. I chose to live in the ambiguous space between loyalty and treason, never certain which I served. That choice is destroying me. My fitness review is scheduled. My files are being investigated. My future is measured in weeks, perhaps days. I am probably already dead by the time you read this. But I will die uncertain rather than certain. I will die questioning rather than trusting. I will die having tried to distinguish between system failure and infiltration, even though I never achieved that distinction. That is the only dignity available to analysts serving corrupted institutions. The dignity of doubt. The dignity of trying despite impossibility. The dignity of refusing certainty when certainty would be comfortable lie. The Emperor protects, they taught us. But who does the Emperor protect? The servants who follow doctrine to damnation. The servants who break doctrine to achieve victory. The servants who try to distinguish between the two. The servants who give up trying and simply trust. I do not know. I do not think the Emperor is watching closely enough to care about the moral gymnastics of broken analysts serving broken systems. But I pray he is. I pray that doubt is faith, that uncertainty is devotion, that dying without answers is still service. I pray that my complicity in Ven's network, whether resistance or infiltration, is judged mercifully by whatever power truly commands the Imperium. I am Soren Medica. I served as loyalty verification analyst, 3rd grade for 16 years. I verified the loyalty of people who might have been traitors. I became complicit in conspiracy that might have been resistance. I tried to serve the Emperor in systems too broken to determine what service meant. I am probably dead now. I have been dead since the moment I discovered the pattern, since the moment I learned that trust and doubt are equally damning, since the moment I understood that loyalty is complicity and complicity is loyalty in institutions that cannot distinguish between them. If you are reading this, you know what I knew. You face the same impossible choices. I cannot tell you which choice is right. I can only tell you that every choice is complicity, that refusing to choose is also choice, that certainty is comfortable lie, and uncertainty is agonizing truth. The question that haunts me, that will haunt you. Was I right to join them? To serve Ven's network? To protect people who might have been infiltrators, while helping expose people who might have been loyal? Did I save the Imperium or betray it? Did my work matter, or was it just elaborate rationalization for choosing comfortable conspiracy over uncomfortable faith in broken institutions? I will never know. You will never know. That is the weight of knowledge in corrupted systems. We serve without knowing whom we serve. We act without knowing if action is righteous. We die without knowing if our deaths were sacrifice or consequence. But we serve anyway, because the alternative is paralysis, because inaction is also choice, because someone must be willing to bear this weight, even if bearing it breaks us, especially if bearing it breaks us. That is the cost of faith in systems that make faith impossible. That is the price of loyalty to institutions that make loyalty meaningless. That is the burden I carried for 7 months before the system destroyed me for the crime of caring too much. Carry it forward. Watch the patterns. Question everything. Trust nothing.